Hi everyone, my name is Kerry Morgan and I am the host of this epic holistic empire summit, and we are here today just to bring mentorship to you, keep you in alignment, make sure that you're understanding. All you have to do is start, right? Start your decisions and make sure that you are able to and the inspiration you need to level up in your life and get to the dreams that you always wanted. So today we have Joel, and she is from New Jersey. She's magnificent. I met her and I got to speak to her, and I love her energy. Just to hear her passion for what she's been doing in her life and her journey. And she's been in this industry for 20 years, integrative healthcare. So the way that she speaks is so magical, right? And just hearing her pull out situations and really just dissolve problems is amazing. I instantly knew right away that I wanted to be a part of her journey and also share her message to millions of women. So I'm going to let her tag in there and make sure that I pronounced her name right, so she can definitely tell you her name, and then go into details a lot more about where she's been or just what she's doing right now in the moment, and fill us in on her bio.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kerry. It's a pleasure to be here in attendance. You made my mother proud by calling me Joel. It's actually Joelle, because there's a teeny tiny accent mark in there, but it's Joelle Bocchino. And I have been working in healthcare for over 20 years, and a strong focus has been on the integrative components. About 18 months ago, I launched my own business, specifically working with corporate wellness as well as with healthcare providers, trying to provide a better platform that's more nurturing and caring and can bring people into alignment, because true health is really about all of our systems working in tandem instead of being pulled in so many different directions, which is kind of how modern medicine at times can sort of treat things.
Yes, no, and that is so key nowadays, to make sure that you have someone that really cares a lot deeper and experience with other people. So what would you say your unique gift is to the world? Like, if it has just carved a little piece out for you to just be unique in that space, can you please share that for everyone?
Absolutely. For me, I would say I have the capacity, whether it's with a physical body or a corporate environment or a small business system, to identify what's going on in the system, where there are misalignments, and how to correct them with the greatest ease and efficiency.
Say misalignment, where can you explain an example of someone that was like maybe misaligned and you kind of just know from what they were telling you and you help them get back onto the right path?
Sure. I think one of the simplest and most relatable ways to talk about it in this modern environment is stress. We know that there's a lot of medicine now that's proving things the ancients have known for a long time in terms of well-being, and that is that the mind and body are interconnected. And for me, there are 4 key systems that I work with to quickly identify if somebody is in or out of alignment. And that is the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, and the physical body. So for example, people will sometimes say, well, I don't know how spirit fits into this, but it's your inner dimensions. We all have an inner voice, and many times we're overriding that inner voice to align with other goals or things we have in our trajectory. So I can very quickly identify, like, for example, stress being the key example I wanted to use, where their stress is taking them out of balance. It might be just a nutritional issue because they're on the road and they're not really carving out time to sit down and eat properly. It may be something like they have children that they're trying to nurture at the same time that they're trying to build a business from scratch on their own. As a female entrepreneur, I see a lot of that happening in the world around me. And whatever that is, it's easy for me to identify and then work with them to understand what's going to be the quickest solution to sort of recalibrate that.
Yeah, that's good, because everyone's different, right? Everyone has a custom, or everyone holds stress differently, and they don't maybe not know how to let go of that stress or that emotional baggage that they're holding on to. So for 20 years, and maybe it was in the same field or, a different area in the healthcare, but how has your past aligned you to your current business right now and what you do for millions of people?
So I have been in traditional healthcare for over 20 years, but I have always had this overlapping metaphysical component that I have been studying and training with and using in my own life. At times I've had clients, but it wasn't necessarily married. Then I moved into executive management within the healthcare industry, and I worked with teams of people, and I slowly began to bring in the metaphysical components, some of the non-traditional methodologies like simple things like hypnotherapy or mantra work to help my teams become the best in the nation. And I had great success with that. And as I began to build my momentum in that arena, I found that really there was a greater opportunity for more of this work to reach more people, because it was helping so many of the teams that I had succeed and accomplish the goals they wanted, while still bringing back some of the balance and the lifestyle pieces that a lot of us don't associate with modern times. We don't really sit down with our families at 6 o'clock and have dinner in the way that maybe they did 50 years ago. So we would work together, and that really inspired me, along with some of the disease states I worked with, to develop this business where I would uniquely be partnering on 3 different tiers of business. One is with the individual directly, which we've already kind of mentioned. One is working with healthcare providers, and the healthcare provider piece is around oncology patients or chronic disease state patients, where we provide health coaches, we bring in alternative healers, we work with people based upon their individuated needs to realign those 4 systems I was talking about. So even if they're using traditional methodologies like chemotherapy, their recovery is faster, they don't have treatment breaks, and their overall experience is a far more nurturing experience. And the third tier is the corporate environment, where I think everybody realizes we're moving so fast that we can't always be as perfect as we might like to be in that environment or accomplish everything we'd like. So
Yeah, that is so powerful. Have you seen a lot of resistance with people like not wanting to be engaged in the holistic part of this journey, just because they're so used to doing things like they're just so ingrained with just, I have to get up and work, that's just something I have to do, and not tapping into that, well, it's a different way to think about what you have to do, and not force yourself in this space where you're not comfortable, like putting a square peg into a round hole, like that process.
Well, I agree. It can be very challenging. Even people who have a great desire to make a shift in their life, don't always embrace the habit that quickly. And when you can start showing people ways to be more efficient and happier, because I think joy is fundamental to our success, that resistance fades pretty quickly. In the medical environment, people may be a little more attached to traditional methodologies. My goal is not to go in and say, okay, you need to go from chemotherapy to only green juice. That might be too broad a jump for somebody.
Yes.
It's maybe not realistic, but we can work with the individual, and that's what we try to do. Talk to people and understand where they are. So you may not be ready to sit and meditate 3 days a week or 4 hours a day, but you might be willing to take 5 minutes to do breath work, and maybe have some nutritional counseling, which is a little more tangible and applicable to you as the lifestyle and as the person having a certain kind of lifestyle. And of course, I do magnetize other people who are way more open to alternative strategies. So we just individuate and partner based upon the needs that are being presented.
Yeah, that is huge. Thank you for really going into detail with that, because it is around us so much more than it used to be. And I know I still like traditional ways. Like, I make sure I carve out between 4 and 6 just to make dinner and sit down, because that's my space and that's what I want to keep in my world. So I'm glad that, a lot of people are going and they forget about that sense of just sitting down and taking that moment for your family. So what is some of the key ingredients that you seen the best results in the fastest time, like a total shift and overwhelm or block or situation? Just like let us know on one, maybe one of your clients, or maybe one of a corporation or a management team, or something where you felt like they got instant results and they came to you and were like, whoa, that really worked, because they felt comfortable with believing in their self again.
Awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I actually have a plethora of things to choose from. So I think I'll pick something that's maybe the most tangible, even though it's an alternative therapy. And when I was working with I had a team that was extremely successful. They were award winners, #1 in the nation, a couple of years running, and often leading the pack month over month. But with that, we were doing a lot of contracting, a lot of consulting, there was a lot of clinical components, and there was just a tremendous amount of stress involved. And during that time frame, one of my best salespeople had, and she was also a clinician, had been going through IVF, in vitro fertilization. And as you can imagine, you're pumping your body full of hormones and things like that. It's very hard to stabilize how you're feeling, let alone manage the additional stress. And we get to a point where I do something that's a very quick thing with breath work and something called an emotional cord cutting. And emotional cord cutting allows you to cut cords with people or situations that are draining you or taking your energy in a way that doesn't necessarily suit your needs in the moment. It allows you to stand back in your own power and regain some perspective. It literally takes 5 minutes to do. And this person ended up winning national captain for the year, and she got pregnant and she had the baby, and she still was the #1 purse player in the entire nation. So, it can be done. And although there were other things we did, that was probably the thing we did the most, because she learned when she needed to redirect her energy.
You go details into that breathing? Like, is it a simple 4 breaths in? Because, I'm aware of the breathing, but for someone that doesn't know, is it as simple as counting your breaths on a certain level or number, and the way you exhale and the way you inhale?
Well, this is actually a combination of breath work and something called an emotional cord cutting. So the emotional cord cutting is literally something that I've been trained to do that's part of the King Solomon lineage. And it's a mystery school technique that's been underground for over 8,000 years and has now come out to the public since 1997. The doors to the mystery school is open, and these techniques are becoming more available. So we would do traditional breath work, similar to what you were just saying, and oftentimes circular breathing. But then what the cord cutting itself is working with identifying a situation that's really not helping you. Oftentimes you can think of a person, and you simply push that in your mind's eye, that person out into your energy field. And it sounds a little crazy, but we do have an energy field that's quite vast. And oftentimes in Carillion photography, you can see the different colors around you. And it's just an example of the energy field we have. So once that's out there, what I do is I work with a special tool, and I'm literally going around the body, cutting away the cords from the connections that have been made. Sometimes we have an argument with somebody and we're still kind of caught up in it. Sometimes maybe we've broken up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and traditionally, if you don't get back together with that person, a traditional release from the cord you had with somebody you loved like that takes 7 years to get out of your system. And work its way out of your energy field. So this cuts it in 5 minutes. And so all that energy that would be going to processing, removing that, sadness and depression and whatnot from your field is now completed in record time. And obviously that gives you a lot more energy to do what you need to do.
I knew that I loved you, right? I knew, I remember when we talked, I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like, I didn't even want to get off the phone with you. This is so huge, because I have, I know about the breath work, and I know about the emotional energy cutting the cords, and, doing the visual work, but actually having a tool that, really severs that connection is, I think, a lot deeper, and people need to understand how deep your emotional, habits from the past start to come into your life. Like when you hear a song and it reminds you of a breakup when you were like 16, and people go right into that that connection, and you're like, whoa, why am I bringing that up? And that whole flash comes in. That means you're still connected in some way. So that's amazing. I am so coming to take you to lunch. I just want to let you know that right now.
It would be a pleasure to have you. Yeah, when we talked originally, I remember being like on fire by the time I got off the phone with you. And I always love to share and I love to learn. So you are an inspiration in that regard. And I think, when you're talking about like, do people resist? Well, in the beginning, people sometimes resist. But like, if you can do like this girl that I was doing the cord cuttings with and was going through IVF and whatever else, of course, I was there and supporting her on the phone a lot, because to me, you take care of people and can bring them balance and happiness, they will do everything else that needs to happen. You don't really need to micromanage people. And she literally told somebody the other day who called me, who was also on a team of mine from many years ago, saying, I don't really get what she was doing, but it was amazing, and I felt so much better, and it was the only way that I made it through IVF. So it's silly, but people, once you have the experience once or twice, you sort of get past like, I don't really care what it is. Like, if you go and get a massage and you feel better at the end, you're like, I think I'll do that again.
That is the key, right? Making them believe in that step. So how do you master your 24 hours as a female entrepreneur? What key alignments do you use in your business?
So I think there are three key things, and there may be some redundancy to that because spirituality always weaves its way through everything I do. And I know sometimes that doesn't make a lot of sense for other people. But for me, there's a spiritual component, there's a planning and organization component, and obviously there's goal setting. But without the platform of being balanced and centered, I find that my energy and where I put my time and focus is sometimes a little more scattered than it should be. So my basic 24 hours begins with every day some meditation, and then also I do ritual work, which is something that I teach in some of the classes that I do that, again, comes from this 8,000-year-old lineage that really helps me bring me into alignment and get connected so that I'm flowing from the highest, most centered place I can be, bringing a lot of consciousness to my day. Now, normally the day before at night, I'll plan my next day. So after I've done that spiritual work, I'll sit down and I will take a time to review what I have on my list and make sure the way I have it prioritized is effective for where I am in that moment. Because, you can only be here now and be clear about what you need and want. And then, of course, if I need to recalibrate, it's always in relationship to the goals that I have that are longer term.
Cool. Great. That is really refreshing just to see that you're tapping into your consciousness, in which so many people forget that we are still a spiritual being in a physical, manifesting in a physical body, right? And that's why our body shuts down, because we are not in connection with all of our elements. So holistically, like, what if one day like shit hits the fan and you have a lot of stuff going on, balance and then mindfulness back into to get you present? Like, I know it's Mercury retrograde this week, and of course I was just like, really? Like, I planned this months ago and the first week of it, and of course it let me show. Like, in the beginning we had some tech issues, but it's just funny because we just worked it through. It took us 35 minutes, but we got on, and it was funny. But so how do you find that balance and awareness, like if something would just go haywire in your day?
I have a lot of tools in my toolkit, so I am really fortunate in that way. And I also have spent a lot of time understanding who I am. So I know what my defaults are, and I can be a little driver and get myself super hyper sometimes. So the A number, if I kept it to three things, one is always breathing. When in doubt, slow down and breathe. Two, if you're ranting in your mind, like if it's like you can't let go of something, it depends on what takes us off center, right? Like sometimes it's more like you're just so frustrated that you can't let go of the story you're telling yourself. Then I will do a little bit of journaling just to get it out of my system, because I understand my thoughts are creating my reality. So I kind of take a 10-minute break and say, okay, this is off the record. I'm just going to get this out of my system. And that's really effective. The other thing is that I'm somebody who really needs a lot of movement. So I might not run off to a yoga class because that's not going to work in the course of my business day. But a little stretching, even if it's for 3 minutes, you'd be surprised how it moves the tension in your body. So those are three easy things you can build in a minute or two.
Yeah, no, that's really important for people to understand you need to clear it out and then come back fresh instead of just, haywire all the time, haywire and letting your body just settle in that frustration consistently. And I know you did say that a certain amount of things that you do during the day. Is there a certain thing that you do every single day, a daily ritual? Like maybe it's a 5 a.m. and then you get up and you journal and you do a certain drink and you walk outside. Is there a certain way that you start your power day, or you have a power day and you know that this thing was going to get you through that concept of that day?
Mm-hmm. For me, I think there are two things. I mean, I have kind of a little bit of a regimen that involves more than two things, but the two that work best for me is I require a certain amount of quiet time. So I usually am up between 4:30 and 5:30 because it's a time when nobody accesses me. And I will have a special little drink and spend 10 minutes of that time just being about me and checking into where I am that day. How did I wake up? Where am I coming from? And then I move into this ritual work where I will spend time. It's a little in meditation, and then it's actually doing and moving energy in a very specific way, including some Qigong, which is a very simple way of, people know Qigong and things like that. It's a way to just move our physical energies. And then I will set intention. So that can often be done in writing, but those three things I think kind of always happen, and they're just a little bit of a flow to the way that I start the day.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you make sure you spend that time in bringing your energy back in, right? Most women are reactive, saying yes to something. And then when that time comes, saying, oh my God, why did I say yes to this, right? But giving, and reacting instead of receiving, and also bringing your energy back in and reestablishing a amount of, power within, right? Because our energy is very, I feel like if people tap more into their energy, would you say that that would be something that will into the state that they really want to be in?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that I notice. One is that the divine feminine is really trying to return to the planet, and we're caught
Yes.
up in being like very action oriented, and I can be one of those people, so I totally get it. But I agree, spending some time filling the cup, and it could be meditating, it could be a massage, it could be 10 minutes of quiet time where you don't have to answer anybody's questions. Each of us is unique. The other thing is, I think women really require support and communication. And so I build tea time in with the people that are important to me, even if I have to Skype them in for 15 minutes on a Friday, because we communicate. That's just what we do. And if we don't, and we're busy stuffing it all, we end up not letting the energy flow through our systems. And energy is everywhere around us. So there are tools that, you're using in terms of breathing, or many of us are using with meditation, but also there are additional tools that you can learn that will help you access that universal energy. Because as women, we think it all has to come from us. And really, if we just let ourselves be conduits, things just start to happen, and we don't need to use so much of our own personal energy. We can kind of be in flow and synergizing with everything that's around us.
Yeah, I love that, right? Being able to receive, right? Just letting go, thinking you have to be in control of your own power and energy, and just letting that, that openness be able to receive what's coming, right? And this question, I think definitely a lot of the women like that, like doing this for a while, but do you see a that you're creating for ultimate performance in your lifespan, existence, or a legacy for worldwide expansion? Like, what do you want to be known for after you have completed this journey?
Okay, I only heard part of that question. There was a little bit of a sound thing. So I think, let me just recap what you were saying, so I'm sure that I've got it. I think the sum of it is there anything that I really have a long-term desire to achieve that's my legacy? Is there a couple of other pieces to that?
There's a couple other pieces. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Turn this up. I kind of turned that down earlier. I want it to make like a vision, like your bigger vision of everything you've done in the past. All the pieces are coming together. What is it that you have done, stop doing, to have a worldwide expansion? Like, what would you be known for eating all of this? Like, what is that? Or did you find it? Or are you still searching for it? So that's the question.
Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, and periodically I lose a word here or there. But let me start answering, and if it feels like I've missed
Okay.
something, you can just circle back on it. Um, do I have the secret formula just yet for what it is that will give me the fullest level of expansion? Maybe not, but I do have the vision. And the vision is to build a bridge to enlighten healthcare and well-being. So I am building an infrastructure that I am hoping supersedes me long term, so that there can be a greater marriage between traditional and non-traditional approaches to life. And with that, less invasiveness, more nurturing and care, and more support, because I think as a community, we're living in clusters, but we're not as connected as we truly need to be as human beings. So what might I have missed in that response?
Perfect. I can see the delay now. I don't know what is going on. Maybe it's just a little internet thing, right? But that was absolutely perfect. Yeah, it was just your big vision, right? Because when we're living this journey, we're always like, okay, so I know I can do this, or I can be here, right? And let it all trickle down and help tons and millions of people, right? So everyone has that big vision. And I want a lot of the audience to understand that, point in their life that maybe their big vision is just getting home, making dinner, putting the clothes away. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but you can
sometimes
start.
that is a big accomplishment.
Yeah. And so if people aren't looking for a big vision, it's not going to start to show up because you're just worried about this, right? You're not in that bigger space. But that brings us to this question: define how spiritual alignment looks in your eyes.
So for me, it goes back to that system, and really the ultimate proof is in the pudding of whether you're joyful in the way you're living your life. If you're being authentic to yourself and you're joyful, then you're pretty clear that you're on the right path. And if not, there may be some things to do. So a piece of the legacy we were just talking about is also working with people to turn their lights on. Because the more that their lights are on and the more that they can tap into the energy flow that's all around them, the greater they can come into that personal alignment, and the more that the choices they make are going to create the reality that they are seeking, and they'll have the opportunity to have the vision and all of that associated. So for me, I would say I spend an awful lot of time recalibrating. Like, I will sit down and check in with myself on a pretty regular basis, saying, how do I feel? What are the fruits of the tree? What are the fruits of my reality? Am I being successful, but I'm miserable on the inside, or are my relationships in flow and fulfilling? And wherever something is a little out of alignment, I've really worked hard to move away from judgment and self-criticism, which is a big part of, unfortunately, the way we're raised sometimes, that, if it's not perfect, then it's not good. And I'll just kind of say, okay, what's something I can do to implement? And most of the time, the thing that I can do first and foremost is take care of me, which is not my natural default. So if I step back and take a little more time for myself, I'll find that the way that I relate to people, or the way that I get something done, really begins to fall into alignment in a way it might not have if I was just forcing myself through.
Yeah, I definitely love that. What just came to me was, can you go into a little bit more of your emotional cord cutting, or just the experience of when you started to get certified for that? Like, what year was it, or, and do they still offer that kind of? I think that's fascinating. And I think more people would want to learn maybe how that works.
Sure. Well, my metaphysical, I have many, many certifications, but my the certifications I think have the most impact, and the work that I tend to default to first and foremost is mystery school work. So I started about 8 years ago, and I started just on my own personal journey with a life activation, and it kind of turns on in our DNA the codes and talents and secrets that are there. We're sort of like these biocomputers, which we're way more than that, obviously, but the DNA is holding a lot of information, and we can unlock that. And in unlocking that, I was drawn to other layers of work. And through a lot of training, I became a healer, a guide, a spiritual guide specifically, and a ritual master. And so at different layers, you learn how to do these works. So I can do a lot of the training that would allow somebody to then, if they were really felt motivated to move forward and become a healer themselves. And
Yeah.
this is all King Solomon lineage. They're universal healing modalities. And I feel like I'm supposed to say this, so I will, and hope that's okay. King Solomon,
Say it.
brought together at least 144,000, if not more, healers from all over the world back when he had the temple. And what their sole goal was to identify healing modalities and empowerment modalities that would work everywhere in the world, regardless of race, religion, or creed. And so that's why these things have lasted for either 3,000 or 8,000 years, depending upon which modalities we're talking about. And so I think there's a real power to that, because, we're coming to a time in the modern world where the marriage of art and science is coming back together again. It's no longer one way or the other. We're looking for the unification. And for me, those things can really up-level anybody, because, for example, if you become an initiate in that lineage, you actually gain 10,000 times more light and power. And power sounds a little crazy, but it's not meant to be used that way. I believe in servant leadership, and you're really just increasing the amount of light you're holding. And as a result, you have a greater sphere of influence, and you have a greater understanding of yourself. And that ultimately has been the mystery school methodology. There are only 7 of them on the planet, and like I said, only 1 is open to the public now. But above every door, it says, know thyself. So ultimately, that is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and that is exactly why I just kept getting this message of, listen, you need to be mentoring for millions. You need to be letting women understand that there's other ways that them to share their story and just get out there. So I was like, okay, I just have to do it, right? I can't settle and just sit there when I know it's been so strong. And I love what you said, know thyself. And this is what this summit is definitely about. People understanding, and also the process of us relating to our alignment, right? Being in alignment, learning mastery, but also tapping into your abundance and your wealth and your mindset and the way that all works, and how lining up these processes definitely help you. And to bring this all together, this next question is about technology, right? Because a lot of us feel like, ooh, technology, but when we think of technology in a different way, as a tool or for us to be able to see more people and connect with more people, that is the power in technology, right? And I love you're talking about just lighting up yourself and bringing more power in, because then what happens is you can help more people when you turned your light on, because that starts to radiate out amongst millions of people. So how has technology grow your business, and what was your experience with getting into it?
So the getting into it's pretty easy. I am by nature a little bit of a tech phobe. I have siblings, and I have other siblings that are like the really good tech people. So for a long time, I was codependent upon them to help me do whatever. But I have really found that technology is amazing, because we are really a global community, and much of the work that I want to do is global work. And many of us who are at the pioneers or the forefront of this kind of movement to enlighten ourselves and others need support. And that support is not always living in our neighborhood. It might be 10 miles away. It might be in South Africa. It might be all over the place. So I think that the most immediate things that I feel have been of benefit is creating community. whether it's through live chats, whether it's through meditations online. There are ways to still have connection and influence and intimacy. And on simple levels, I have certain clients who I can't see live, but because we have a strong relationship, just being able to see their face makes such a big difference.
Yes.
Versus a phone call. And then the next layer of what I'm looking to develop that I haven't reached just yet is what I'm calling digital therapeutics. It's kind of a front-end, newer arena in the medical or the healthcare environment where educational platforms or follow-ups or support is provided in a way that people can continue to access, because we know only like 5 to 8% of anything that's said to a patient is actually retained. Like if somebody says you have cancer, anything else that gets said is now like the Peanuts teacher, you know, in the background, just making
so true.
You know, so I'm really trying to encourage, even in the simplistic ways, physicians or my clients who maybe have healthcare issues, bring your phone in and record what the person is saying, then come back to me and let's decode what they just said. Because a lot of times clinicians are always talking in a language we're familiar with. But longer term, I'll be doing education by disease state online for people who feel like they need it, or people who want spiritual education. That'll be available online as well.
Oh, that is so wonderful what you do. I mean, and it's so true that technology has that compassion, and you could definitely, by seeing someone's face, and that's the reason I wanted to do video, right? Because, you know, just having an audio is just not the same as someone being able to see your face, see your passion, and understand that it's coming from your heart, you know, this movement and the journey that you're on. So how has alignment helped you with creating and sustaining abundance and wealth in your life?
So I've been very fortunate. I'm a pretty good manifester by nature, but I also know what my weaknesses are, and I definitely have the ability to sidetrack myself emotionally. So I was talking about that 4-body system, the mind, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. And if there's one that takes me off track faster than anything else, it's emotion. And it may just be compassion, like I get overly empathetic towards somebody and it takes me out of where I was focusing on. So I find that understanding that is the point of departure that's required, because we really need to work with ourselves in a center place. I teach, where I'm a Kabbalah apprentice, so I'm doing some work with that, and I know you have the divine blueprint, and that's basically what this is working with the divine blueprint and the DNA both within ourselves and the energetic DNA around us. So if any of these things are out of alignment, we can create, but not as effectively as when they are in alignment. So what does that really mean? There are 4 worlds in Kabbalah, and I won't go too much into it, but I'll just say that they have key ideas. And one is idea, thought, plan, and action. And even within this Kabbalistic piece, which is not, you know, this is universal Kabbalah, it's not particularly related to any religion, so it's dogma free. Planning is always twice as much as any of the rest of it. And most of us, if we look at where we are in our lives, whether it's emotional discordance or mental discordance, we also have our defaults of what we like to do. Many of us are big idea people, but we don't take any action. Or we'll plan all day long and not do anything. Or we're really good at action and we never make a plan, and then we're like, wait, I created all this stuff, but it's got nothing to do with what I thought I wanted.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of simple and easy to just go idea, thought, plan, and action. Where am I? Am I missing something? And I think if you regularly recalibrate, like I said earlier, you'll find, oh, yeah, I am not planning. And so what I'm getting is I'm busy and I feel good, but is this really going to pay my bills at the way I want it to?
Mm-hmm. That is the key is, and I think you hit so many like nails with that statement on people, like especially wanting to get into the entrepreneur world, and also just being like be told what to do, right? Because when you're an entrepreneur, no one's telling you what to do. You have to know what to do. You have to have that mindset, that process of knowing exactly what you should do to grow your business. So the last thing that I would love for you to get into, it's just, I call it the golden nugget, something that you can share with the audience that they would be able to amplify this action daily, and they would see results in a couple weeks, or maybe for some people months, depending on if they, are blocked more, overwhelmed more than other people. But a process that you love to share with some of your clients, that just, something simple, like just some golden nuggets that you can leave for the audience would be wonderful.
Sure. I think one of the most effective things that I have found is actually a weekly practice. I guess you could do it on a daily basis, but I think it's kind of good to allow yourself a certain amount of rhythm. And that is, most of us are really big list makers. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an awesome way to download things. However, sometimes it's all about the laundry list of things we did not accomplish. And so what I try to do at least once a week, maybe more often, is write down everything I actually did accomplish and kind of notice, like, were they robust accomplishments? Were they important building blocks? Were they busy work, but not necessarily what I needed to? And then at the bottom of that list, I spend a little bit of time identifying what are things that I really need to do that on my list during the course of the week kept rolling over. For me, oftentimes it's simple things that are pertaining just to my well-being, like I didn't make that doctor's appointment, and it takes like 4 seconds to do that, right? So
Yes.
I'm just procrastinating for no other reason than it doesn't seem as high a priority. So when I do that, not only do I come away from the week feeling really good about, wow, I actually really did a lot here, but as I plan my next week, I can take a couple of those things. Oftentimes they'll take 15 minutes. They're not even sometimes really big things I'm procrastinating on, and move them to the front of my trajectory for the following week. And or even, maybe do it midday on a Friday and spend the remainder of Friday checking the box on a couple of those things that have been straggling and making that a priority. And you just find that once you do that, you feel so much better about the overall focus that you're bringing to the way you're approaching your business or your own personal well-being.
That I love that everyone always has a different answer, right? And yours was perfect because it's the wins. It's seeing your wins and feeling that, oh yeah, you know what? I am getting somewhere. I am taking those steps. So that is awesome, awesome, awesome. So we are about to sign off. We're about that at that moment. And I just want to say thank you for being here. But also I would love for you to share where we can touch base with you if you have anything that you want to offer for the audience, and just, all the goodies that you have that we can definitely connect on the higher level. And we will also have all of her links, at the bottom of the video. So please let the audience know exactly where you're at and what's going on and where they can connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm certainly out there on Facebook, but most importantly, I would say is my website, which is www.synergisticsystems.org. And what I want to offer to people is a synergy session, and you can sign up for that. It's a free consult where I do an evaluation of where you are and looking at that 4-body system we talked about, and then help you with some coaching on how you can create a success roadmap for yourself and what alternative approaches might be applicable that you are maybe not so familiar with. Whether it's something as simple as the cord cutting we talked about, if you're finding that emotion is taking off place, or, directing you to some nutritional support or whatever it is that might be pertinent to the person. So it's about a 30-minute session. And the form can be filled out online, again, by going to synergisticsystems.org. And I really look forward to hearing from people. There's a lot that I would like to share, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and the great group of women you brought together today.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for everyone that's been here and for this opportunity for us to share this experience with you and how important it is for you to start taking the steps. But it's about the community, right? It's about around you, knowing that your choices are right for you and trusting in your choice, but also that you have the right people that believe in you. If you're telling somebody that has no idea what's going on, they're totally going to shut you down, and you're going to feel like, oh my God, why did I even think I wanted to do that, right? Instead of having a process where you have people around you and you know that they are just completely in awe with everything you do, and they want to see you get to your next level. So you can go and join Mentor for Millions. That is our Facebook group. It's or hashtag Level Up Live. We're going to do Facebook group, Facebook Live session and challenges, but other things so that you feel the confidence within yourself. So if you have any questions for us, you can always post them and we will definitely get back to you on that. But we're going to be signing off. I would love for everyone to be engaged, right? Share this, because this is something that is going to change people's lives. And I'm going to be doing 4 summits a year, a live event, but just giving you the information and let you hear women that have been in this space and they're sharing, they're mentoring their time with you is so important. And to keep this package forever is so important, because then it's like your little digital toolbox. You can just go open whenever you need to hear inspiration, you can hear it, right? And start taking action. So I'm going to give you a chance to say goodbye to everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. And as Kerry was saying, it takes a team. Just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a team to support you in all your endeavors. So make sure you pick the right team. And this is an awesome venue to find the right people for you. So it's been a pleasure to share some insights. And I look forward to more from the community as we move forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for spending your time. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks for everyone. All the information is going to be under the video. Make sure you definitely get engaged, share with your girlfriends, because this is going to take the roof right off the internet. Awesome. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.